Okay, this is Wednesday, January 7th in the year 2015, and we are here at Ginter Mill talking to George A.
F.
George F. Ginter.
George Frederick.
George Frederick Ginter, named for his father and his grandfather. Would that be right? Frederick Fry?
Both grandfathers.
Both grandfathers. Oh, well, that's
One
right.
was Frederick Jacob. He's the one who ran the mill. Frederick Jacob Fry. And then my grandfather Ginter was a farmer.
That's right.
Farmer.
So Mr. Ginter is the last miller in Cumberland County, I'll bet. Could that be?
I really don't know about that.
Well, there are not too many of you.
No.
He's going to tell us a little bit about how you worked here as a boy. You just told us that you started when you were 2 by helping what you were able to do. What's the first job you remember doing?
In the mill?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like grinding feed. Helped to do that. And when I was real small, I didn't do a lot. You know what I mean.
Well, you wanted to stay away from the big machinery too. I'm sure they wanted to. So when you're in your early memories of the mill, was when the post office was still here, and the store was open. So, how did the farmers did they bring their grain in with a tractor on a wagon or in a truck or
Usually
horse-drawn?
with horses and wagons.
And then how was the grain worked? Then they left it, or did they wait until it was ground? Or
Some did, but they usually left it and then came back later after it was done. At that time, we pulled everything up to the 3rd floor and then dumped it in a bin.
and those bins had their names on them, were storage areas for that farmer, or
Uh,
did they have names on them?
well, no, we didn't store it. We just dump it in there and grind it to process it.
But I thought some of them had names on them.
Yeah, on the bins, they stored some grain. That's right.
So they brought the grain in, you processed it, and it took one day, a week, a few hours. How long did it take?
Well, it depended how much you did at a time. But, usually for a small go feed, it didn't take too long.
And how far away did the farmers live? What, a 10-mile radius, or?
Probably back then it'd be about that.
And what were the grains?
It was usually corn and oats and had some barley and wheat.
But you weren't making flour. You were
No,
just on
we
the.
didn't make any flour.
But your grandfather made flour, didn't he?
Well, I'm not sure about that.
I think I
remember.
read that he
It's
had.
possible. But when my dad ran it, we didn't make any flour.
And then you had a capacity to add other things to enrich it.
Yes.
Some molasses and or sorghum or something.
Yes.
So, in your memory of working in the mill, was it was water when you were a boy, but then it was powered
Yes.
after you started running?
Well, after I started, I used water power for a while,
Did you?
and then went to, like a gas machine or something, motor. And then we went to electric.
So who maintained the workings of the mill? What was there someone that you had to call, or did your grandfather do it himself, or?
Well, we had a few local people in the community that did that kind of thing.
But back in the day, do you know how they maintained the stones, the grindstones?
No, I wasn't familiar with that.
That
We
was
have a
before
couple
you-
stones out there.
Yes, we saw
Mhm.
those. Because I think they had to keep sharpening
They
those.
had to, I believe. Yeah, there was a farmer, it lived maybe 5 or 6 miles away, kept trying to buy the millstones, but we didn't sell
They mean more to you than they
them.
do.
Yeah, they told me that one came from France, the one stone.
The French burr.
Yeah, they're still out there. My dad put them in.
Well, now, tell us a little bit about the ice business. Was it? Did you have that when you took it over too? Were you still doing ice then in the 50s?
No, I don't think I put any ice. We had an ice house right at the back of the mill, and it had like plank to slide across to put it in. And then you'd put sawdust in there to keep it longer.
Was the sawmill still operational then?
No, I don't remember the sawmill.
So how did the ice come down that big hill? On a sled or a wagon, or? I mean, wasn't the ice cut at the lake?
Well, I think there was some, but they had plank across to the ice house to slide it over, and
But-
then stack it in there.
But how did they bring it down the road?
That I don't remember.
Those horses again, I guess.
Probably. Yeah, well, at that time there wasn't so many trucks running.
That's right. So then, what do you remember about the post office?
Oh, I remember that quite well.
Did
I used to help sort the mail sometimes.
did people come in every day to get their mail?
Pretty
or-
much. Yeah.
And then would they stay and visit a while and get the news?
Yeah, they did. In fact, one relative was the mailman that brought it out from Newville. His name was Jimmy Ginter.
It's all in the family.
Well, there was a Ginter's mill in it, close to Sailors there at Newville. It was a different Ginter.
But they must have been related in some way.
Yeah, they're related.
So what did you offer for sale in the store? Food items or canned items?
Yeah, most all things like that.
Could you get a loaf of bread and some milk?
And some bread.
I guess people had milk at home. They
Mostly. But we sold milk. Yeah.
And how many patrons of the post office in this area? 100 families, or?
I don't believe there would have been that many in the community that it took in. I'm guessing maybe 50, but I'm not sure. In fact, my daughter has the box part. It was someplace that they got it. Now they have it up at their place.
Oh, how
In
nice.
the basement. You know, with names on the box. And she lives up around Newburgh.
And when you were growing up in this area, I think we drove past the school, but you walked down to
State
that
Road,
school.
down the road.
Yeah. Was that all 12 grades in there, or?
No, I think just up to 8.
And then did you go to Newville to high school?
I went 1 year.
Oh, okay.
You know where the firehouse is? That's where the school used to be when I went.
Do you
Yeah,
have-
I quit when I was, see, 15, I guess. My sister Newville has a store down here, was born, so I had to go to school to help at the mill.
How many workers worked in the mill?
Just my dad and I.
Oh, you were
Mostly.
there. And then you got Steve helping you when you could
Mm-hmm.
later on.
Uh-huh. Yeah, after he retired from teaching.
But I think he said he helped as a teenager.
Yes, he did some, but I don't think he cared much for it.
He talked about bringing the turnips in or something.
Yeah. Yeah, but after he retired from teaching, I had some health problems, operations and so on. He sort of took over. And he's still taking over.
Lucky you.
Yeah. Well, he seems to enjoy what he's doing. So.
Well, I have a question about the bags. Did the mill provide the bags, or did the farmer have to provide his
They
own
usually
bags?
brought their own bags.
And then they reused them?
Uh-huh.
But did you have your name on the bag at all, or stenciled on there for Ginter's Mill, or anything like that? Or
Yeah, my grandfather's name was on, and then my dad,
but
George A. Ginter.
the farmer bought the bags from you and then used them? Or?
No, they usually had their own sacks that they brought. It was more like burlap sacks at that time.
And how about when you switched over from the using the water to the electric turbine? Did that take several months of hard work and engineering, or?
Well, it really didn't take too awfully long. I don't remember exactly. But when we changed it over, then I got the gas engine, you know. That's when I got a hammer mill put in.
But the hammer mill does the same work that was done before,
Mm-hmm.
and more efficiently.
I think so, yes. It's a little faster.
Is it noisier?
Well, it's pretty noisy.
You have to wear earphones.
It gets your attention.
So, how did you get what was your nearest basis for getting supplies? Did you go to Newville or Carlisle or Shippensburg, or what did?
Well,
As
back
a-
at that
as a-
time, we probably got from around Carlisle and maybe even a little further. I just don't remember exactly. But at one time we did get feed in to Newville on the rail.
Oh,
We got feed from Buffalo, New York. And in the wintertime, they'd say order early during that time.
huh?
You know, kind of the weather.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You had to get 20 ton on a
Oh,
car.
a minimum load.
Mhm.
Oh,
It took me a little while to unload that.
well, I think. Wow.
It made about 3 truckloads like on the truck I had. In
Wow.
fact, I still have it. It's a Ford truck. that I
Old
use.
Faithful.
Mhm. I think it's about maybe in the 50s or 60s. But it still runs.
Well, how about your very first car or truck? What did you have?
I remember one time I had a Model T,
Did you?
1923. Yeah.
Was that you got after the war, or before you went?
It was before.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. fact, it was my brother-in-law that brought it, oldest brother-in-law. They had it stored in a shed or something. Here one day he came with it. Then we just used it around the place, you know. Up above the house was about an acre or so. We could run up around in there.
Were you courting before you went to the war? Were you married before you went to war?
No, it was a couple years after I got out. Mm-hmm.
But was she writing to you during the war?
Well, how I got acquainted with my wife was my one brother was going to Findlay College, and she had attended there. She worked in a I don't know what was where she worked. I'm trying to think. It's been a good while. It was some kind of a bookstore or something along that line.
Well, I'm trying to think of other things or can you think of something that you would like to tell us about the way the mill worked, or the way you lived your life out here? You walked to school.
Mm-hmm.
How about church? Did you walk to church, or?
Yeah, it was right up the hill from the place. But at that time it was a different church. They built a new one since.
Oh, but same denomination, just a different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's only about a half mile up the hill.
Is there a cemetery up there also? Is that where the Ginters lay?
No, mostly Newville.
Okay.
That's where my parents are buried.
So now how much actual grinding do you do here?
Well, not nearly as much as we used to, but we make quite a bit for ourselves too, like chicken feed and hog feed. Over that line.
But there are not that many people who have livestock, I guess, in this area.
Not as many as you used to be.
How big would you say the average farm is in this? Well, like in the 50s, would they be 100 acres?
100 acres, or maybe be one be a little bigger. They're mostly smaller.
And
a lot more of them than now.
So, did most people have a little bit of livestock and the field of grain, or that?
Yes.
They grew their own feed when
Pretty
they could. How about stills? Whiskey stills?
I don't remember that. They kept that quiet.
That was such a big part of the early mills. I wonder if your grandfather had one, or when the McCormicks had the mill, I would bet they had a little still business on, but they weren't regulated in the same way. Can you think of other questions?
Could you just speak a little bit about your father, sort of what he was like running the mill, growing up, learning about the mill from him?
Well, he taught me what he knew. My grandfather would have known more about the mill than my father. In fact, when he sold it to my dad, he built the house that's right up there. It was along the race. I remember that. It was built in the 20s, right after he took over the mill.
But even as a boy, you don't remember that much water in the race, or
Yeah,
Or was
I
it?
can remember the
You-
water
you can.
in the race, yes.
And wasn't there a holding pond of some sort back? Or did it come directly into the mill?
Yeah, right from the race.
Mm-hmm.
And the race was right up there along the highway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a tank inside the mill where the water came in. And then you had an opening for it, and you'd pull that slide to let the water go down under the wheel to make it go. And then went on down the stream.
But you only released that when you were actually grinding. When the wheel was turning, it didn't come in all the time.
Yeah,
You held it in the tank
came
all the time.
coming through.
The wheel worked the whole time.
Yeah, until you were done grinding, then you just shut it off.
Yeah.
Sometimes the water would get all, in dry weather.
Mm-hmm.
We had that problem.
Well, I'm afraid you're getting too chilly.
My feet's
want
getting
you-
cold.
Mhm. Yeah. Say heads up.
Starting up over here.
What I'll be doing is starting the mixer and putting some soybean meal in and stuff that we'll let it mix a while and then bag it out. You ready? Oh, just a minute. Let me get a bag. It's right here.
Oh,
I thought you were using it.
yeah, I think I did.
Okay, when you're ready. That thing coasts for a couple minutes, and then you finally hear the clanking of the hammers as it slows
stops.
down. Yeah. It gets quite a bit of inertia going. You can see it coming down by the window there. There's
Yeah,
an
see it?
auger at the bottom. An auger takes it across, and then there's another auger goes up the middle.
And how long does it take to mix all that?
Well, we let it mix a few minutes, and you can tell by looking at it if it's mixed or not. Right now it looks a little uneven. When it's mixed, it all looks even.
Yeah, I can see it changing color.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long to mix.
Yeah, amazing. Well, wouldn't your grandfather be astonished to see all this?
Yeah,
Wow.
yes, it would.
I think Steve said that he sometimes would mix it on the floor
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah, I think I did when it started.
Yeah, the mixer goes up into the second floor and it's about yay high above the floor there, and it'll hold 2 tons on average. It depends how dense the stuff is. It's real bulky stuff that wouldn't hold 2, but this is real dense. It would probably hold more than 2 tons. Shelled corn, it's heavy.
Yeah, I think the mixer with Dad got was probably a half ton.
Half ton.
Yeah.
Is that still upstairs somewhere?
No, he sold it. We like a 50.
Oh, I hear him clanking down.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we saw that part.
Yeah. Yeah, you got this from Muncie, PA.
Yes.
Brett Waldron. 1950-ish.
Yeah, whenever I got the new hammer mill, I took the old one up once a year
Here we go.
and pick up truck.
Hi. Oh, a little chilly. We're trying to keep the cold air out.
Yeah, I bet. Hey, bud, how you doing?
Hey, what's on fire?
Put a pound of scratch.
Cold enough for you.
Yeah, can't get the bike out this week.
Okay. I didn't have mine out yesterday. We took a picture.
Did ya?
Yeah, the daughter's gonna send it to Australia.
Australia?
So people
Wow.
got snow down there. It took a picture beside it to show them.
Want me to throw this in the back there?
If you could send the autograph.
Oh, well, it's good to see it. And then we'll put off the
Going all through.
Yeah. They're saying 30-mile-an-hour winds this afternoon.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
I was wishing I didn't hear it. You got everything?
Yeah.
Right. It's 1850, I think.
What was that bumper?
I didn't hear it. I mean, I don't know where it came from.
There's something pumping out there.
Yeah.
That's 19 and 20.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, here's something you give them out of the holidays.
Okay, great, thanks.
Tip bag,
See ya.
tip something. Maybe it's not good on these pilots. That's just it.
I think the stand to say you should cover that up.
Yeah, thank you. Ginter's mill is for steel. Over here, this little green.
Now, how can you tell when it's ready?
It's ready now.
Oh, how can you tell it just from the color?
Yeah. It's been in more than the front.
Yeah, it looks pretty consistent there now. Well, you had a customer years ago that wanted you to keep mixing for 15 minutes, right? He said 15 minutes. He was particular.
Well, I tell you, it's like a boutique mill, right? You mix to order.
Whatever the customer wants.
But to see his farm, he didn't seem particular.
That was Piper or whatever? Okay, I was hoping I had the right guy
Yeah, he used to live up the hill.
to give him the bag there.
Yeah, what's his wife's name?
Diane,
Diane.
yeah. I'll mark them off the list here.
She's a little girl.
They used to live at the top of the hill, right? They were your neighbors.
Is that PFEIFFER?
I think so.
Well, they had a mill, that family had a mill down on the County of Gwinnett, right outside of Newville,
Yeah.
Middleton.
I'm not sure if it's spelled that way or not.
Well, there's a Piper and then there's a Pfeiffer.
Yeah. This is, starts with a P. I'm not sure about the F after it.
Uh-huh.
He gets these tied, right?
I think you did.
All right.
You want to go up to the roof?
Yeah. So I can tie them. I get it. That's fine.
Well, you don't need to go to the gym after you
No.
poke them around all day long.
Nope, that's no problem. If we run out of bags, I'll just get some other little ones. He brings bags. These are the ones he brought the last time he picked up his feed. I kept them to the side. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, will he come for those today?
He ordered it for Friday morning. You can see it starts getting empty. See the clearing in the window.
Uh-huh. I guess I'm surprised that it's so fine. I didn't
Yeah.
know what holds 8, but
Yeah, that's pretty typical there. It's a fine screen.
it smells good.
Yeah, you can kind of smell the corn and the this little bit of soybean and barley. I think they'll eat it.
Yeah. Well, you two have quite a system here.
Yeah. It gets it done. This is the pig meal that he makes. It looks pretty similar. He puts more ingredients in it. I don't know if you can explain it or not. He puts shelled corn like he did, and some barley. And he also grinds up some alfalfa pellets, give a little bit of alfalfa flavor, and some mids, which is fine, you know, like flour, mids, and bran. Some hog supplement he puts in here, which is high in protein, some soybean meal.
But why, this is what the guy actually asked for.
This is what he wanted. Yeah, it's less expensive than that others. I mean, he just gets the shelled
Basic.
corn and the barley,
Right.
basically. The most expensive item in here would be the soybean meal.
Well, those plastic bags are a real improvement, really. I mean, they must last a whole lot longer.
Yeah, they're better than the old burlap because the burlap would get rotten or if they got wet. And, these are a little more waterproof. These do get rotten too after they sit in the wet for a while. If they dry out, they'll get rotten, and the heat will make them real kind of like they tear. Yeah. Makes them brittle.
I wonder if hogs eat more in the winter. I guess they would, to keep warm.
That would be my guess. I know the feed keeps better in the winter. You don't have bugs.
Right.
You can keep the mice away.
They had a legendary cat named Ginter who supplied lots of feline power.
Yeah, there's Ginger and all her offspring. How many cats did you give away?
Oh, lots. She had like 100.
Probably about 4 or so yet.
Since back even in the old days, this has always been the bagging area, I guess.
Yep. Ran out of strings. We recycle.
Old failure corner.
Yeah. Yeah, farmers will bring us this stuff. Ask if we can use it, so as long as it's in decent shape.
Paper bag.
You need another one.
I think the paper bag is holding.
I'll just get you one of these small. That's not tall enough to reach the floor.
I don't think there's much in it.
Why don't you just hook it on? Here, I can get it.
Nothing stuck in it.
Let's bring it into that.
Sounds pretty hard.
Yeah, these bags weigh over 100 pounds. I think it just fell off.
We take a shot off. It was a lot.
I'll just put that in a little paper bag. I didn't know how much it would be. That's all there is to it.
Well, you make it look easy.
Better than standing around in the cold.
Yeah, it is cold. Now what we should have is a picture of the hog.
Yeah.
Happy because he had Ginter Mill
You'd
mixed
have to
food.
travel a ways to see this hog. Where does this guy live? Do you know? Brady?
Up in Perry County,
Yeah, but where?
up toward, I think it's Blaine.
Oh,
Oh. Well, didn't that mill that was up there close?
Yeah, I think it did. I forget that mill that was over there. I was at it one time. The guy showed me around.
Pretty good mill, I think.
Didn't your grandfather used to have a mill over there?
Yeah.
Fred Fry?
Uh-huh.
Where was he located?
I think it was like when you'd go through Landisburg, just keep going straight.
Straight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going toward Duncan.
Well, he was quite the enterprise guy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm surprised how very little dust there was from the process.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh-huh.
in the aggregate over time, I'm sure there's a lot, but
Yeah.
not from one,
You notice it on your glasses.
I would think, yeah.
Things look foggy.
But do you think there's such a thing as like miner's dust, that there's a miller's?
I've never heard of it. I don't know. When I get shelled corn out of the bin and there's a bunch of dust, I don't stand there. I mean,
That's probably
I get a big
smart.
paper bag and fan it away
Yeah.
because I don't want to breathe all that in.
No,
It wouldn't be very handy wearing a mask all the time.
no.